All right, folks, we have a development on the H-1B question, on the JEET question. What is going to happen? Well, we have Donald Trump, our guy. Donald Trump signs an executive order on H-1Bs, raising the fee that companies pay to sponsor H-1B applicants to $100,000. And it was said during this press conference, it was $100,000 per visa per year. And so many are seeing this as a nuke to the system, a nuke to the H-1Bs. This is what we wanted. This is what we voted for. But many are lamenting. Many are in pain. The American dream is officially over, says Abhi and Niu. Their American dream is officially over, which is apparently the American dream of decolonizing Indian mines. Not quite sure what that is. It doesn't surprise me to see what they look like because it is the Indian dream. Very clearly, 75% of H-1B go to Indian citizens. This is very clearly a co-ethnic scam that is being exploited by the Indians here in America. There is no reason why India should represent 75% share of total H-1Bs. No reason. No reason that India has more talent than China or any of the other countries. Why do we have these visas? We are nuking the visa. It is very good that Donald Trump is nuking this visa because Americans can do these jobs. I don't know if you know anyone in the tech industry, but big tech is always the one that comes up in this conversation. What is big tech going to do? What is big tech going to do? Because Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Apple, these are the companies that typically hire the most H-1Bs. If you know anyone who has just anecdotally been trying to find a job in computer programming in the last 5 years, in the last 3 years, they can't get a job. It is very hard to get a job in the computer engineering, software engineering industry right now. It's very difficult. Typically, you cannot find a job very easily. And one of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the reasons is that a bunch of those jobs are going to H-1B applicants. And one of the reasons why they're going to H-1B applicants is because they work for less money. It is slave labor for big tech to reduce their overhead. It is cheaper to hire Indians than it is to hire Americans. But that's only one reason. Another reason is because the hiring managers of these big tech companies are Indian. There is a very clearly established co-ethnic nepotism going on between Indians and Indians, even in American companies. But there's some reasonable pushback, like we have here from Nick Mark, MD. He says this is going to be absolutely devastating to the medical field. He says 30% of residents are international medical graduates, and 10K of 43K residency spots are filled by doctors with H-1B visas. How are we going to do this? How are we going to go forward if we lose 30% of our doctors? How can we survive? Well, actually, on the face of it, we cannot. It's true that the medical industry, which is already stretched very thin at the moment, cannot lose 30% of its residents. It just will not survive that. But I argue that that's a good thing. That's a good thing. We saw this just the same day, yesterday, that Trump was considering raising the retirement age to save Social Security from insolvency, per Fox. So Social Security is another system like healthcare that is stretched very thin, and Trump is considering raising the retirement age in order to take off some of the pressure that the Social Security system is under because there's too many people taking money and not enough people paying in. This is something that people have been warning about in America for 50 years. But it's finally coming to a point. And I had a thought. I said, why don't we end EBT in Section 8 and then we'll have plenty of money? My point is, if we stop spending money on food stamps and subsidize housing for poor people, then we'll have more money to give to Social Security. I'm not making a moral argument. I'm not making a political argument. I'm making a purely budgetary argument here. We are spending a bunch of money on these things, and if we stopped spending money on these things, we'd have more money for this thing. I liked this response. Seb's Fire Journey says, people always think it is the people poorer than them oppressing them. Well, this is a typical classist argument. He's trying to make a class argument here. He thinks I am trying to scapegoat the poor people. And I guess you could scapegoat the poor people. We could talk about how lazy they are and how they're taking advantage of these systems. But actually, I agree with him. It's not their fault. They didn't create these systems. They're just taking advantage of them. And I don't really expect a poor person to, abstain from food stamps in Section 8 if it's being offered to them. No, it's actually the elite who are giving away this money that I am speaking to here. I'm oppressed by those elite, those liberal elite who have created these entitlement programs. And I want that to go away. I want those liberal elites to go away. And I want Christian elites to come into power and to decide that if you don't work, then you don't eat. That should be the morality that guides our government benevolence programs. If you don't work, then you don't eat. We spend way too much money on benevolence to people who, in a Christian framework, do not deserve it. Okay, so going back to the healthcare industry, we spend way too much money giving healthcare to people that don't deserve it. Extrapolating from Paul saying, if you don't work, then you don't eat, I think it's very reasonable to argue that if you don't work, then you don't get a doctor. If you don't work, then you don't get money, and if you don't have money, then you don't have healthcare. Healthcare is not a universal human right. That is a secular, humanist, liberal argument. Christians should not believe that charity is an entitlement. Charity is not an entitlement. God does not give out charity because he has to. God does not dish out grace and mercy because he has to. We do not need to fill our country with international medical graduates so that we have enough money and enough doctors to give away free healthcare. End Medicaid. End Medicaid right now and only provide healthcare to people who can pay for it. And I know the healthcare system is a much bigger mess. I'm not even going to get into regulations and laws. I'm not going to get into insurance. I'm just going to start right at the very basics and say, stop giving away stuff for free. If we stop giving away stuff for free, I bet we can shave off 30% of our doctors right there. Let's get rid of all of the foreign doctors and stop giving away healthcare for free, and I think it would balance out pretty quick. Or, as Abhi and Niu say, does that mean the American dream is over? Well, I would say if your American dream involves foreigners getting free stuff, then yes, then that dream is officially over. And for that I say praise God, because that was always evil.